Hi, and welcome back. When I was writing the females' voices in the novel, I wrote one woman at a time from start to finish. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to stay in that woman's headspace and in the deepness of it and in that moment. And that's why I did it. So today we will be in Isra's headspace. She's in prison, 2004, and away we go. Before I was in prison, like many others, I had driven past the high, whitewashed walls topped with rows of barbed wire and wondered, what would it be like to be one of the unfortunate forced to live there? I became one of those residing on the other side, and then I missed the days when I was one of those driving by, commenting on the masses of canna flowers. Other than the canna flowers, friendships were the only beautiful thing that grew in this prison. Before I met my dearest friends, Da and Sunny, all I had was the canna flowers. Canna flowers are a feast of color, as the entire plant boasts elements of great beauty. It's not just confined to the bloom. The plant is so tall in stature that its flowers greet you at eye level. Broad, yellow veined leaves and tall, purple foliage. The orange flowers burst out of the top, reaching for the sky. Canna flowers are decadent, and true friendships even more so. It was the bloodied scabs and oozing pus around her badly swollen ankles that first drew my attention to her. I could not turn my eyes away from the rawness of her wounds. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "Your ankles." I couldn't help myself. She must have sensed I did not mean her any ill will, for she responded without hesitation. "I was shackled for 4 months. They took them off after they transferred me here. The prison wouldn't want to be short a set of shackles now, would they?" "No, I guess they would not. What did you do to get shackled for so long?" "Nothing special. I think the guard was in a bad mood, and I wasn't walking fast enough for him." "Those marks will scar." "I know, but scars are the least of my worries." She smiled with an electric honesty that left me grinning right back at her. The skin around both of her ankles eventually cracked and crinkled and left white, barbed wired like bracelets around them. Her name was Da, and we became fast friends since the day her ankles caught my attention. Da was the bright spot in an otherwise darkened existence. I liked her daily dose of wit. It was all we needed, and she could be depended on it for delivering it. I don't know much about Da's life prior to prison. She was protective of her privacy. What I did know was like the majority of women, she was here on drugs. Da claimed she did not want to bore us with the sordid details, but she was explicit about life in prison before her transfer to Chiang Mai. "This is like paradise," she liked to tell us. "Don't get me wrong, there's no mistaking it for a luxury hotel." Da laughed. "This place operates with an efficiency that would make any business proud." Da had an audience, which was how she liked it. She raised her voice to ensure all those within hearing range could hear her every word. After some readjustments to her stance, so the effort she put forth in her body language for emphasis might be appreciated, she resumed. "In the other place," she paused, looking around once again to ensure she had everyone's attention. "Showering wasn't about cleaning. Showering was about washing in shit. I'd be standing in the shower attempting to wipe the gram away when I'd smell it. It was enough to make me puke. Ooh, or I'd feel it running over the tops of my feet. Yep, the sewers were overflowing again. It was disgusting. We'd try to make the best of it and tease one another. One of the gals would point to a floater and call out to me, "Duh, looks like one of yours," and we'd all laugh. Other days there was no laughing. I'd smell it and I'd want to cry. Showering was always a delight, and food an equally delightful experience. Well balanced, rich in variety, the culinary envy of all the wealthy families in Thailand. Had the rich been aware of our fair menu, we were fed 3 times a day, every day, brown rice and soup. They'd have been desperate to secure some of the standard slop. Hell, if it caused the gals to double over with stomach problems, every night someone would have a stomach problem. I never got used to all that talking in my belly. At night, when I lay with my head down, it felt like my stomach was eating itself. If you desired something that wasn't featured on the menu, which I can assure you was highly likely, it had to be paid for by prisoners. Similar to the way things run around here. My family hadn't disowned me yet, Daw continued, and they lived close enough to visit, so they periodically added some variety to my dietary palate, and they gave me some bat to use however I wanted, which really helped me to live in this friggin' place. The prison system was not what I would call generous with their food or their supplies. The gals I felt sorry for were from the hill tribes, women whose families lived in faraway places like Burma, Laos, or China. These gals had the joy of being incredibly homesick and their diets restricted to what was served. Many of them took on work within the prison, from guards or inmates, performing menial tasks that were, beneath the rest of us worldly convicts. Daw put a little swivel in her hips to ensure her comments were received for what they were: sarcastic jest. Such as those shitty showers. The rest of us Thais, we helped produce the shit with the generous assistance of our diet, but we didn't want to deal with the shit, so we paid the hill tribe gals to clean it up. And they were so desperate. It was easy. Too easy. Daw theatrically twitched her nose in a gesture that intimidated her. I'm having trouble. Intimidated her collection of the pungent odors coming from the showers. She turned her head toward her audience and asked, "In school, did you learn about Charles Darwin?" "Who?" "Charles Darwin, the British guy. The theory of evolution. We learned it in school." "Daw, what are you talking about?" "What does this Charles Darwin have to do with cleaning shitty showers?" someone else interjected. "I'm trying to make a point, smart ass." Daw's hands were positioned on both her hips, her voice rising to the point of exasperation. I'll tone this down for those of you who are not so academically inclined. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution reminds me of what it's like to be in prison. Darwin talks about how species evolve. He refers to it as survival of the fittest. In other words, the strongest survive and the weak die. It's like, here, she paused and screwed up her eyes. I'm not proud of this. I took advantage of the hill tribe women. We all did. Any job us Thais didn't want to do, we gave it to them, and we paid them like crap to do it. Often these jobs didn't earn them enough to pay for basics like soap. I didn't care. I wanted to save as much of the money my family gave me so I could purchase what I needed: my food, my soap. I used the money my family gave me to my advantage as much as I could. Daw, do you think the hill tribe women are going to die? No, stupid. I just mean people do what they can in here to survive, and it's at the expense of others. The hill tribes are at a disadvantage, and therefore they're more vulnerable. And from what I've seen, prison doesn't always bring out the best in people. That's not always true, I protested. Yeah, I know. There are some good things done in the name of friendship. But I'm telling you all of you, when push comes to shove, you'll all be on your ass. The laughter settled and was replaced by a silence that dug deep into our heads until it conjured memories of inhumane treatment witnessed or otherwise felt on the flesh of those present. I'd have to say, one of the worst things I've ever seen was an old lady. She must have been, I don't know, over 70. She'd been beaten up pretty bad at the time of her arrest. You know, the standard punches, kicks, force dually applied because, as you know, old ladies are extremely threatening to men in their physical prime. Poor old thing. The body at any age doesn't do well under that kind of stress. Of course, after they beat her, the police didn't call a doctor to come to look at her. They left her in pain, and she was bleeding internally. Some of the women jumped in and began to add their own observations. I've seen many come here with good color on their cheeks and strong bodies, but it doesn't take long for this place to get to you. Health rapidly deteriorates and people get stripped of their brains. I catch myself staring at people as they move. They remind me of zombies, of some of those late night horror shows. And then I think, oh shit, do I like that? Am I a zombie? I couldn't listen to Da or the other girls offering up their prison horror stories. The bits I unwantedly caught filled my head with nightmarish visions of brutalities, rape and beatings, blood-curdling screams, tears that melted together in an unsettling pile of rotting angst. I tried to think of more pleasant things, but forgot how, and when I returned to the conversation, the girls were talking about a hill tribe girl who had suffered from gout for many years. She could not walk and had since gone blind. I could have left for the dormitory and gone elsewhere. I would have, but it was after 6 p.m., and I was forced to listen to the conversations. The conversations I did not want to hear. I wish I had figured out a way for that fat, thieving, lying bastard to have had the pleasure of a nice long stay in prison. I noticed her immense belly before her face. It was swollen beyond comfort, and I wondered how far along she was in her pregnancy. She couldn't have much further to go. It didn't look possible that her skin could stretch much more. She waddled rather than walked, with both hands supporting her lower back, as each step forward was an effort, but she didn't seem to mind. Her face hid no secrets. There was a pride in the way she held her head, and love expressed in every gesture. I found myself particularly transfixed by her hands, which had moved from her lower back to rest on her belly. It was the manner in which her hands protectively stroked her stomach. It was so compelling. Here was a woman madly in love with her unborn child, dreamily fantasizing about the life ahead. As we had not yet met, I was not sure if Sunny was incredibly naive or determined. I hoped for the latter. Sunny was the type of person every woman liked and every man wanted to protect. Kind and gentle and stronger than most gave her credit for. She would later tell me most people assumed that because she was nice, she lacked the ability to anger. What they failed to recognize was her tolerance level had the capability to far exceed that of most. However, once surpassed, there were no second chances. People were permanently eliminated from her world without so much as a thought. That was how it was for her unborn child's father, whom she referred to as him or the donor. She refused to call him by name. If I were to meet another man by that name, I don't care how rich or handsome, I would turn my head in disgust and walk away, she said. My lips smiled as I heard this impassioned revelation, and I knew right away Sunny and I would be friends. What did the donor do to make you hate him so much? I was incredibly curious about another woman who dealt, as I did, by ceremoniously unnaming a husband to cope with his betrayal. Tomorrow, we will find out what Sunny's husband did to earn the name the donor. Thank you for listening.